I'm just an old man who keeps to himself in a small town. One night at the diner, a couple of punks tried to pick a fight, thinking I was an easy target. But the whole town stood up, every last one of them. The punks backed down, confused, and asked, "Who even is this guy?" After the military, I didn't want attention. I'd had enough of that, enough of the noise, the chaos, the blood, the medals they hand you after things no man should be proud of doing. I didn't leave with bitterness, just weariness, a kind that gets into your bones and stays there. What I wanted was silence, steady mornings, days that didn't feel like borrowed time, a place where I could live without having to explain why I check every window twice before going to bed, why I still wake up at 4:30 a.m. sharp, why loud noises still make my hands twitch. I found that peace in this town. It's not on any major maps. No highway billboards telling you what attractions are here, because there aren't many. A school, a gas station, a church, and Daisy's Diner, where the chairs wobble just a little and the coffee tastes like it's been brewing since sunrise, because it has. I moved here about 15 years ago, bought a small place at the edge of town. 2-bedroom, 1 bath, creaky porch, and a garden I never quite get around to planting. It's quiet, that's all I need. Every morning, like clockwork, I go to Daisy's. Same booth by the window, black coffee, dry toast, sometimes scrambled eggs if I feel indulgent. I watch the school buses roll by, the shopkeepers open their doors, and the familiar faces pass by outside. Folks come and go, but the rhythm stays the same. Most people here call me Mr. Harris. They don't know much about me beyond that. They know I'm polite, that I tip well, that I carry groceries for old ladies and hold doors open for anyone who needs it. Some know I used to be in the military. Fewer know what I actually did. And that's just fine by me. I've never liked talking about the past. 2 tours overseas in places where the sun burned down on everything and the ground was laced with things meant to take your legs. Then a few years doing disaster relief. Earthquakes, typhoons, mudslides, you name it. I helped rebuild more broken homes than I can count. But the ones that really stuck with me were the broken families, the kids with blank stares, the mothers searching rubble with their bare hands. That's what haunts you. You don't shake that stuff off. Not really. But here I can breathe. The town's small enough that people wave even if they don't know your name. Kids ride their bikes past my house and shout, "Hello." The librarian always puts aside new books she thinks I'd like, even though I usually just reread The Old Man and the Sea. I don't have family here. No kids. No wife. Life didn't work out that way. But I've made a home through the things I do. I help. Quietly, when the Simons boy failed his math test, I started tutoring him twice a week. When Rose's bakery got hit by a storm and the front window shattered, I helped board it up that night. No charge. When Mrs. Hargrove's porch steps rotted through, I replaced them before she could even ask. She left me a pecan pie on the doorstep in return, still warm. In the winter, I shovel snow for people who can't. In the summer, I fix fences and mow lawns. I patch things, build things, lift what others can't. I do it without fanfare. It's the kind of work that doesn't get you on TV but makes life better for someone else, even if just a little. That's the thing about kindness. It's quiet, doesn't need a spotlight. People thank me. Sometimes they try to pay me. I always say no. I guess I've become part of the town in that invisible way. Not the mayor or the coach or the guy with the booming laugh everyone knows, but the one people call when something breaks, the one they nod to from across the diner, a quiet presence, a constant. It was a Thursday evening in late autumn, the kind of night where the wind whistles through the cracks in old buildings and the warmth of the diner feels like a soft blanket you don't want to leave. Outside, leaves skittered across the pavement like they were trying to escape the cold. Inside, the old heater under the front window clicked and groaned, but it did its job well enough. Daisy's diner was quiet, like usual. Rosa from the bakery sat in the booth behind mine, her youngest boy coloring on a paper placemat while she sipped her tea and read a baking magazine. Mitch, who runs the hardware store, nursed a slice of meatloaf at the counter while checking the high school football scores on his flip phone. Two teenagers, one with pink hair and the other with a stack of textbooks taller than her plate, sat near the corner, occasionally whispering and laughing between bites of fries. And then there was Lila. Been working the floor since I moved here. Maybe 25, maybe 30. Strong-willed, quick-witted, and always wore her hair in a ponytail that bounced with each step. She knew everyone's order before they spoke and poured coffee like it was an art form. Tonight she was in good spirits, humming some tune as she cleared a table and refilled Rosa's cup. I was at my usual spot by the window. Same booth, same order. Coffee still hot, toast barely touched, local paper open to the crossword. Nothing out of place. Then the door swung open hard enough to rattle the little bell above it. Two young men walked in, maybe early 20s. Loud, brash, the kind of confidence you only have when you've never been punched in the face by consequences. One wore a leather jacket and sunglasses, at night, no less. The other had a buzz cut and an oversized hoodie with a sports team logo I didn't recognize. They smelled like gas station cologne and trouble. They swaggered to the counter, ignoring the open booths, like they were too good to sit with the rest of us. Right away, I could feel the change in the room. The buzz of casual conversation died down a notch. Mitch looked up from his phone. Rosa's son paused his drawing. Even the cook in the back peeked out through the order window. The two started cracking loud jokes, mostly at Lila's expense. First, it was stupid stuff. "You must be the reason men come back here, sweetheart," one of them said, leaning over the counter. Lila gave a polite smile. "What'll it be tonight?" He winked. "You on a plate." She rolled her eyes and walked away. That didn't sit well with him. "Hey, don't walk away when I'm talking to you," he barked. The other one snickered and made a crude gesture. The laughter that followed wasn't the kind you hear when people are having fun. It was sharp, like glass breaking. I turned another page of my paper, trying to stay out of it. I've learned over the years that you don't step into a fire unless you have to. But my jaw tightened. That's when I heard it. "Hey, Grandpa," one of them called out. I didn't respond. "You forget what year it is." I stayed quiet, eyes on the crossword. 14 across. Silent strength, 5 letters. Answer, Grace. "Bet he's asleep with his eyes open," the other one said, louder now. "Yo, old man!" I heard them get up. Heavy footsteps. They stood at my table like vultures circling a weak animal. "You hear us, or you just waitin' to die," the one in the hoodie said, grinning. I folded my paper neatly and looked up. Their faces were smug, expecting fear. I'd seen those eyes before. Overseas, in war zones, in alleyways. Bullies with too much bark and not enough history to know what real danger looks like. "Leave her alone," I said, voice calm. "And leave me alone." They didn't like that. The one in the jacket leaned in, knocked over my coffee with a flick of his hand. The cup tumbled, spilling dark liquid across the table and into my lap. "Oops," he smirked. I looked down at the mess, then back up at him. Didn't flinch. I reached for a napkin, slow and steady, and began blotting the table. No rush, no anger, just tired patience. "You should go," I said. They laughed, loud and ugly. "Or what?" Jacket Boy sneered. "What's the fossil gonna do?" Buzzcut snorted. "Probably gonna croak before he stands up." They thought they were in control. Thought they had the room. Thought no one would stand up for an old man with a coffee stain on his jeans and wrinkles around his eyes, but what they didn't realize was that I wasn't alone, and neither was Lila. The diner may have been quiet, but it was never empty. And the town I'd spent 15 years quietly serving, well, it was about to speak up for itself. Before I could say another word, I heard a chair scrape across the floor behind them. "You don't talk to him like that," Rosa said, voice calm but firm. The two punks turned around, surprised. Rosa stood there with her arms crossed, her son hiding slightly behind her, his little hands clutching her coat. She didn't look angry, just sure of herself, like a mother lion who'd spotted a threat circling her den. One of them scoffed. "You his daughter or something?" "No," Rosa replied without hesitation. "Just someone who respects him, and so should you." The whole diner had gone silent. Not awkward silent, tight silent, like a taut wire ready to snap. People had stopped mid-bite, mid-sentence. Forks hovered halfway to mouths. I could feel it without even looking around. Something had shifted. This wasn't just my problem anymore. Then came another sound, a heavier chair sliding back. Mitch from the hardware store stood up slowly, dropped his napkin on the table, and stepped forward with arms folded across his chest. He didn't say anything at first, just stared the two boys down, quiet as thunder in the distance, the kind of quiet that makes your chest tighten. Finally, he spoke. "Time to go, boys." The punks looked around, their swagger shrinking just a little. One of them let out a nervous laugh. "What, all of you gonna jump us over some old man drinking coffee?" At the corner booth, the two teenagers stood. I knew them, Emma and Ray. Emma clenched her fists. Ray adjusted his glasses, jaw tight. They were just kids, but in that moment they stood taller than they'd ever been. From the kitchen, the cook stepped out. Big guy. Silent. His apron was dusted with flour, sleeves rolled up, arms like tree trunks. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His presence alone made the room feel smaller for the two intruders. Even Mrs. Hargrove stood up. She was in her 80s, always ordered the same soup and half-sandwich combo. Her hand trembled on her cane, but her voice didn't waver. "If I can stand for him," she said, looking the punks dead in the eye. "What's your excuse?" That's when Lila stepped out from behind the counter. She wasn't holding coffee anymore, just had her hands on her hips. Her lips were tight, her eyes fierce. "You don't treat Mr. Harris like that," she said. "Not in this diner, not in this town." The tension in the air was no longer just mine to carry. It had spread, taken root in everyone who had ever sat across from me, nodded at me in passing, or felt the weight of a kindness returned. The two thugs looked around again. Whatever illusion of control they thought they had was gone. Their confidence bled out in slow drips. You could see it in the way their shoulders slumped, the way they started to shift their weight from foot to foot, like they were itching to leave but couldn't quite move yet. "This is crazy," the one in the hoodie muttered. "It's like you people are brainwashed or something." His buddy, the louder one, pointed a shaky finger in my direction. "What's so special about him, huh? Who even is this guy?" The question wasn't asked with malice anymore. It sounded tired, frustrated, like someone who just found out the rules of the game had changed, and he was the only one who didn't get the memo. He looked me dead in the eyes now, searching for something, a reason, an explanation. That question settled over the room like dust after an explosion. I didn't answer, didn't move. I just kept wiping the spilled coffee from the table with a napkin, slow and steady. My hands were calm, deliberate, like I'd done this 1,000 times before, which I had. I wasn't performing for them. I was just me. But that question, who is this guy, didn't vanish. It hung there, suspended like smoke in the still air of the diner. Everyone was quiet, like they were waiting for a cue. That's when the voices began. "He helped me fix my bakery after it flooded. Rosa said, her tone steady. Didn't ask for a cent. Showed up with a mop and toolbox before the sun came up. Wouldn't even take a cinnamon roll as thanks. The two punks looked at her, confused, then back at me. I didn't meet their eyes. I just sat there, hands folded, letting the stories come. He bought school supplies for my son's class 3 years in a row, Mitch added. Quietly, slipped the receipt to the principal and never said a word. My kid still uses that backpack. Someone else from a corner booth spoke up. He patched my roof during a snowstorm. I was out of town and the whole north side had started to cave. Didn't even knock, just showed up and did it. He paid for my husband's meds when we couldn't afford them, Mrs. Hargrove said softly. Her hands trembled on her cane. Didn't even want us to know it was him. But I recognized his handwriting on the note they left at the pharmacy. The room remained still. No one moved. No one raised their voice. The stories kept flowing, not forced, not grand, just real. From the teens in the corner, he tutors us every Saturday. Math, writing, history, whatever we're struggling with. Never missed a session, not even when he had the flu. Said learning doesn't wait. A man I barely knew stood up from near the window. He fixed the ramp at my mom's house when her wheelchair couldn't make it over the old one. I'd mentioned it in passing at the diner once. The next weekend, it was done. He helped me quit drinking, said the cook, voice gravelly. Didn't preach, just sat with me during my worst nights and listened. Sometimes that's what saves a man. Every voice that spoke added weight to the silence between them. Small things, unnoticed things, but those were the ones that mattered. That added up. The punks looked like they were shrinking with every sentence, shoulders sinking, eyes darting. That smirk they'd come in with was long gone, replaced by something that looked a lot like shame. Story after story spilled out, each one like a drop of water wearing down stone. They weren't shouting. They didn't need to. The truth was louder than any raised voice. I had spent years trying to disappear, not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't need applause. I'd seen what real loss looked like. I knew what mattered. And what mattered was showing up, quietly, consistently, the kind of help that didn't need thanks, the kind that left no footprint, just steadied someone else's. I suggest you leave, Rosa said again, stepping forward just slightly. Her son was still behind her, but he was peeking around her arm now. Now. There was no threat in her voice, no anger, just a wall they could not get past. The taller one blinked, then looked around the room again. No one smiled. No one looked smug, just calm, unwavering. People who had built something together, people who remembered. They didn't say another word. No apology, no smart remark. They turned, shoulders sagging, and pushed open the diner door. The night air rushed in, cool and crisp. The bell above the door jingled softly, and then they were gone. Faces red, silence louder than anything they'd said before. No one clapped, no one cheered. The tension slowly melted like fog under sunlight. Lila exhaled behind the counter, grabbed the coffee pot, and walked over. "Fresh cup?" she asked with a smile. I gave a small nod. "Thanks." She poured the coffee, the steam curling upward like smoke from a quiet fire. The others sat back down, some slowly, some with small murmurs of relief. A fork clinked against a plate. Someone stirred sugar into their tea. Life resumed, as it always did in towns like this, but something had been said that wouldn't be forgotten, and something had been shown that didn't need words. Kindness isn't a spotlight, it's a ripple, and tonight those ripples came back.